3 months ago, I made a video titled How to Do Every Important Custom Track Shortcut in CTGP. And while this video did cover some mandatory shortcuts that anyone playing online should know, there are 218 custom tracks, and I missed out on a lot. That is why today I'm going to be covering basically every custom track shortcut that I missed from 3 months ago, from massive shroomless cuts to simple grass cuts. With that said, there is a lot to cover, so let's dive right into how to do every important custom track shortcut in CTGP Part 2. First up, we have Abyssal Ruins, which has a one shroom cut that cuts the first turn and a shroomless shortcut that requires you to bounce off this bounce pad. For the one shroom cut, you want to align a bit to the left and get a trick off this ramp. This ramp is notorious for being very inconsistent. To get the trick as consistently as possible, you want to be in a wheelie while approaching the ramp and trick as soon as your back tire goes past the edge of the road. After landing, hop to the right to be aligned with the top right corner of the road, then wheelie off the edge to land in the dirt, where you can use your shroom to clear. As I mentioned, this ramp is rather inconsistent, so if you happen to not get the trick, you can still do this shortcut. Just make sure to hop out of the dirt to clear it. Following this cut is a shroomless shortcut that has two main methods of doing it. The first method is by aligning on the left side of the road, then starting a left drift. Keep drifting left until the end of the turn, then chain a drift to the right. Aim for this corner of the bounce pad and trick off of it while holding back to cross the gap. You can also do a soft drift and charge a mini turbo on this turn, however it may result in a wider shortcut. The second method of doing this shortcut is by hopping to the left and driving along this piece of road to be aligned for the right edge of the bounce pad. Then as you reach the edge of the road, you want to do a spin drift to land on the bounce pad and drift right off of it while holding back in midair to make it across. The next shortcut is on Alpine Peak, where you get air off this mound to cut the turn. In order to get enough air off this mound to land on the cliff, you want to shroom right before reaching the mound and trick off the middle of it while holding back in midair. Upon landing, start a left drift and drive in between the wall and the tree. Then release your mini turbo before the ramp and do a drift trick to the left off of it to land to the right of this tree, which will send you nicely towards the boost panel. Another strat worth mentioning on this course is after the uphill section where you can trick off this wall to get much less air. To do this, drive in between these two trees and do a hard left drift before the ramp. Upon tricking off this ramp, you want to hold hard right, also known as TF strat, to get more air off the ramp to hit the proper part of the wall to bounce you back on the track. After landing from the wall bounce, be sure to drift right to avoid the off-road. AQUADROM stage has this mushroom shortcut that cuts the turn. However, due to the stairs being very bumpy, this shortcut can be quite inconsistent. First, you want to trick off this ramp and align to the right to wheelie off the side. This is the fastest way to get to the stairs ahead. Once you reach the stairs, drive up them and align just to the left of this wall. Then use your mushroom and do a hop trick to the right to go over the fence and land on the other side. This track has another shortcut that can only be done with a star, mega, or bullet bill. To do this shortcut, trick off the ramp and land on the higher section of the road. Then start a right drift towards the pipes and use your power item to break through them. The next shortcut is on Bayside Boulevard. Although this is in my opinion one of the worst designed shortcuts in the game, it still saves a good chunk of time when done correctly. After going off this ramp, I like to cancel my wheelie to land sooner and to have more space to use my shroom. Upon landing, use your mushroom and wheelie off this brown ramp. Once again, you want to cancel your wheelie before landing on the roof to land earlier. Once you land on the roof, you want to slow down and hold right without being in a drift to reach the edge of the roof while being aligned away from the wall on the other side. Then, trick off the roof to reach the main road. The next method of doing this shortcut is done with the same approach, but instead of slowing down, you want to collide with the wall to the left of the edge of the red roof and charge a standstill mini turbo as you fall down to the main road. You can also do this shortcut shroomless, which is really difficult but can help you break away if done online. To do this, you want to drive down the left side of the downhill and hop to the right off the edge of the road to land on the boost panel below. Next, you need to use the boost from the boost panel to make it onto the roof. To do this, drift right towards the brown ramp, and as you hit the grass, drift left. Then as you reach the ramp, trick and yank your joystick to the right, then hold back in midair. This will give you the airtime needed to make it onto the roof. Due to you being in a trick boost, you cannot slow down once you land on the roof, so you have to drive towards the wall ahead and bump into it to send you back down to the main road. Next is the Shroomless shortcut located at the start of Big Express City, which has a lot of parts to it, but is really easy once you know what to do. Firstly, you want to charge a mini turbo on this right turn, then do a left follow through to align for this roof in the distance. Wheelie down this ramp, and as you reach the uphill ramp, hop to pop onto the roof. Trick off this roof, then trick off the ramp to go in between the two fences. After driving past the fence on the right, hop to the right and trick off these 3 rooftops to land back on the main road. This 3-shroom shortcut on CALIDAE Desert makes for some exciting finishes, though new players usually have a hard time finding where the shortcut actually is. Firstly, you want to drive off the left side of the pyramid and take the left path. Then hit the 2 boost panels ahead. The shortcut entry is located ahead of the second boost panel, and is surrounded by out of bounds. After hitting the second boost panel, you want to hop to the left to enter the shortcut and use 3 mushrooms to cut all of it and reach the road on the other side. On lap 3, you can also do the shortcut with 2 mushrooms, by hopping in between boosts, being in a wheelie as much as possible, and drifting to the left after the thin section opens up. Next is the Shroomless shortcut on Canyon Run, which is done by tricking off this balloon. To do this shortcut, align towards the right side of this boost panel and drift left before the green road. Continue to drift left off the ramp to decrease airtime and nosedive in midair to land on the balloon. Then, trick off the balloon to land on the other side. You can also hold left or right upon tricking if you are misaligned for the ramp below. Castle of Darkness has multiple shortcuts throughout the course. The first one is right at the start and is important to gain front presence to grab that almighty shroom box, which will allow you to run this course. To do this shortcut, use the boost from the road to enter the off-road and hop to the left to align for the boost ramp ahead. Then use your mushroom and trick off the ramp to the track below. The next shortcut is done with 1 shroom by taking the right path towards the end of the course. Start by holding a left drift up the slope, then releasing it at the top to be aligned for the large off-road ramp ahead. Use your mushroom right before you drive off the track to land on the ramp, then drift left towards the top left corner of the boost ramp, and trick to reach the track below. Note that you can take this shortcut all 3 laps when in first place, by getting the shroom box, which is located on the left split path at the start of the course. The largest shortcut on this course can be done with 3 mushrooms and is done by taking the left path towards the end of the course. Start by hopping to the left to face the shortcut ramp, then use your mushroom as you drive off the track. Trick off the following ramp and hold right to avoid hitting the left wall. As you land, use your second mushroom, then use your third mushroom once your boost comes to an end to clear the off-road. The next shortcut is this little off-road skip on Castle of Time, which not many people know you can do shroomless. To do this, hop onto the boost panel, then soft drift onto the grassy ramp. Once your mini turbo is charged, release it and wheelie to cross the other side and charge another mini turbo upon landing. Next is Cave Island, which has 2 shroomless shortcuts. The first one can be done by using the boost from the cannon to land on this boardwalk section. After landing from the cannon, drift right and using the trick boost, trick off the edge of the road and hold back to cross the water and land on the boardwalk. Then trick off the boost ramp to clear. The next shortcut is much more difficult and done by tricking off this beam to skip the U-turn. First, trick off this ramp and hold right in midair. This will allow you to take the left turn much tighter. Drift left once you land and align wide towards the grass edge. Then start a hard right drift and aim just shy of where the road starts to flatten out. As you approach the grass edge, release your mini turbo and do a spin hop trick. This is done by hop tricking to the right, then immediately flicking your joystick to the left. This is the only way of getting enough air to land on the beam with Flame Runner. Once you land on the beam, trick off of it and hold hard right to complete the turn. If you struggle to get the mini turbo before the hop trick, you can compensate by doing a wheelie off this ramp to give you more time to execute this shortcut. This shortcut is done differently with a mock bike since it gets more air off ramps than the Flame Runner. The approach is similar. Align wide towards the grass and start a right drift, this time doing a soft drift instead of a hard drift. As you approach the grass edge, release your mini turbo and do a hop trick to the right and hold back in midair to land on the beam, then trick off the beam in a hard right drift. Now onto the shroomless shortcut on Cool Castle Canyon. This shortcut is known to be one of the most inconsistent and janky shortcuts out there, though there are ways of making this consistently. Start by getting a mini turbo and tricking off this rail while releasing your mini turbo to land on this rock. Then trick off this rock and hold or drift left if needed to land towards the left side of the rock ahead. To get low air off this rock, you want to drive up it on the left to right angle, and do a hop trick once you reach the top. You want to delay this hop trick until your back tire reaches the top of the rock. This will allow you to stick to the rock. Finally, trick off the edge of the rock to make it back onto the track. Here is another example. Left to right angle and a delayed hop trick. If you are aligned head-on with the rock, or if you do not hop trick at the top, there is a good chance you will get a bunch of random air or have some really weird things happen to you. Next is COTTONPLANT Forest, home to one of the largest 3 mushroom shortcuts in the game. Start by aligning to the right of this tree and shrooming into the grass. Then start a left drift and shroom in between the fence and the tree. The hitbox on the fence is bigger than it looks, so it's best to try to go as close to the tree as possible to avoid it. Then use your last shroom to cut inside this tree and make it back onto the main road. Lastly, be sure to hop onto this ramp to get lower air as it will fly you high into the air otherwise. DK Pass has this hill shortcut which has multiple trees in the way. Start by doing a right drift, release your mini turbo and align wide right. For this shortcut, you actually want to start your drift rather late, around when this tree is out of sight. Soft drift towards the hill and shroom once you hit the snow, then do a wide left drift to avoid the trees. Once airborne, hold back while keeping your drift, then release as you land. Flying Kingdom has this shroomless shortcut at the end of the course that saves a lot of time when done correctly. But you lose a lot of time when you fail it. A very high risk, high reward shortcut. To do this shortcut with Flame Runner, align towards the left side of this ramp and do a spin hop trick to the right, then drift right as you land to be aligned just to the left of this wall. Once you reach the edge of the following ramp, do another spin hop trick to the right, and hold left in midair while in a drift. As you land, drift hard right and drift off this boost panel to the track below. This shortcut is much easier with Mach Bike, as you get more air and can drift much tighter, which allows for a less precise alignment. You still want to spin hop trick off the first ramp and the ramp that follows, but due to the sharp drift, you want to align a bit more to the left than with the Flame Runner. Next is this 3 mushroom shortcut on Forest Creek, which is one that many new players don't know about. To do this shortcut, trick off this log and start a right drift as you land. Get a mini turbo and as you approach the fence, release your drift, wheelie and hop to cross the gap to land in the grass. Normally this grass section will be too long to clear with 3 mushrooms, but this section of grass after the first mushroom is actually not off-road, which is what makes this possible. So, after your first mushroom ends, wait around 1 second before using your second one, then drift left and use your final mushroom to clear the grass. GBA Broken Pier has a 3 mushroom shortcut that was extremely difficult in the old version, but is now very easy to do and saves a lot of time. Start by drifting onto this red bridge and using your first mushroom. Then hop to the right to be aligned for the top right corner of the boost ramp. Use your second mushroom and trick off this ramp while holding 45 degrees to the left. This will allow you to take the right turn that follows much tighter. As you land, drift hard right and use your last mushroom to cross the red bridge. GBA CHEEP Island is up next with this boardwalk shroom cut. To do this optimally, you want to align to the right of the first slow ramp and hop onto the brown road. Proceed by shrooming and getting a low trick off the next slow ramp, by hopping and tricking simultaneously as you hit the ramp. Then low trick the final ramp and start a right drift as you land to make the turn. Getting these low tricks are not required to make the shortcut, so there is no risk if you struggle with this technique. However, it does allow you to take the shortcut much faster. Next is the shroomless shortcut on GBA Cheeseland. This shortcut is what makes this track runnable despite having numerous shroom shortcuts. To do this shortcut, align wide and start your drift by hopping onto the first boost panel. From there, you want to soft drift towards the yellow ramp. The general alignment for this shortcut to make it onto the rail is to be aligned with this red stripe on the boost panel as shown here. Once you reach the yellow ramp, trick and flick your joystick to the right to avoid the out of bounds. Then hold back in midair and release your drift to land on the rail and proceed to drift or wheelie off of it to land back on the main road. If you feel you got too much air and are going to overshoot the rail, you can also hold up to get less air to avoid landing in the off-road. As you can see from these next examples, the proper alignment for this shortcut is rather precise, and if you are a bit too far to the left, you will miss the rail and go into the out of bounds, as well as being too far to the right, which will land you in the off-road. If you are landing to the left of the rail, you are starting your drift too early or you are drifting at too tight of an angle. And if you are landing to the right of the rail, you are starting your drift too late. This shortcut takes practice and good muscle memory to get down consistently. Moving on to GBA Rainbow Road with this shroomless turn skip. At the high level, everyone goes for this shortcut and going around loses valuable time. For this shortcut, align wide left and drift hard right towards this indent in the road. The best spot to do this shortcut is actually a bit to the left of this indent, but anywhere in this general area will allow you to cross the gap. As you reach the ramp, trick and yank your joystick to the left to get more air to cross the gap. You can also trick off the ramp on the other side if needed. GBA Ribbon Road is a very underrated running track, and this rail shortcut can help bolster your lead as it not only saves a good amount of time, but is also trappable. Start by soft drifting this left turn and releasing your mini turbo with a right follow through. You want to aim for this section of the boost ramp and trick off the yellow ramp while holding right to land on the rail. Drive along the rail and do a spin drift to the right, similar to the spin drift on the rail at the end of N64 Bowser's Castle. Proceed by drifting along this rail. I like to stay on the left side of this rail to avoid getting cornered off into the out of bounds. Hold your drift all the way until the end of the rail, then release your mini turbo and wheelie off the rail to the track below. Now sometimes when you get a wheelie off this rail, you can get stuck as shown here. To prevent this, you can simply hop off the rail. If you do not feel comfortable doing the full rail shortcut, you can still land on the rail and spin drift off of it before the turn and land on the boost panel, which still skips the series of slow ramps. GCN Bowser Castle has a turn skip which seems very easy to do, but avoiding the wall can be very difficult on Flame Runner. The first method is done by aligning to the very right side of the gap and doing a spin drift once your bike reaches the edge of the road, then drifting hard left once you land. It's important to spin drift when your bike is on the very edge of the road, as if you hop too early, you will get a slip, causing you to hit the wall on the other side. The second method of doing this shortcut is actually the method that I use in online play. This method is done by starting on the left side of the road, then hopping to the right to face the edge of the gap. As you approach the edge of the road, start a hard drift to the left. Drift off the edge of the road and hold back in midair. Then drift hard left again upon landing to complete the turn. Another thing to keep in mind when doing this shortcut is the fireball that gets shot out of the Mecha Bowser. As you can see here, the fireball starts on the right side, then moves to the left. So when attempting this shortcut, it may be better to intentionally drift close to the wall to avoid it. GCN Rainbow Road's update made this ending shortcut viable to do online, with it being able to be done with only one mushroom. For this shortcut, you want to align towards the very right side of this ramp and drive off of it while holding back. The timing of this shroom is critical in making it across. You want to use your mushroom just before the boost from the boost panel comes to an end. If done correctly, you will make it onto the main road, skipping the ending spiral. The next shortcut takes place at the start of Glimmer Express trains. This shortcut is important to get front presence at the start of the race and is essential for anyone who wants to run this course. The first part of this shortcut requires you to get onto this rail. To do this, align for this arrow in the boost panel and hold 45 degrees to the left as you trick. Drive up the rail for a second, then hold right and trick to land on the box below. Once you land on the box, aim for the right side of the boost ramp and trick off of it. You want to land from this ramp in a nosedive on this area of the box, where it dips in elevation. Upon landing, drift left. Then trick off the box and hold back right as you trick to get enough air to cross the gap. After completing the rail cut, you can combine it with another shortcut by clipping through the wall as shown here. To do this, do a wide left drift off this boost ramp. Aim for this section of the wall and hop trick to clip through. You can also trick off the edge of the road here if you happen to make it up top, but this is not mandatory. Gothic Castle has a large off-road cut that you can do shroomless. The downward spiral has multiple trickable ramps. You want to trick off the last 2 ramps and hold a left drift in midair. After landing from the last ramp, drift left towards this section of the road, then release your mini turbo and wheelie right before reaching the off-road to reach the other side. Now you won't be able to skip all the off-road, but there are a series of boost panels nearby, so simply hop to the left and hit the boost panel to regain your speed. A huge mud shortcut and boxes that give certain items such as a mega or triple shrooms makes Haunted Woods one of the most strategic luck courses in the game. Starting off with this huge mud cut. This cut can be done with a golden, chaining a star or a mega into a power item, and can be also done with a bullet bill. Keep in mind that the mud is very heavy off-road. Not only can you ruin your race by getting target shocked in the cut, but the piranhas can eat you up as well. So be extra safe to avoid them when taking this cut. Another thing to mention is that when you have the bullet bill, be sure to sit in the cut for a little bit before using it or else it won't take the cut. The next shortcut on this course can be done by getting the mega or triple shroom boxes. To access these boxes, drive into the house and take the right path. The item box on the right is the mega box and the item box on the left is the triple shroom box. It's better to get the mega box to be immune to other racers as well as being able to dodge the shock. But you can take the triple shroom box if the mega box is taken. After getting a box, there is this chain jump that is guarding the exit ramp. You can try to play mind games with it to get the boost ramp, but generally you want to go all the way to the left to avoid it as shown here. With a mega, you want to hop into this grass patch, then drift right to cut the turn. Proceed by driving through the piranhas, then finally cutting the grass on the left turn afterwards. With triple shrooms it's the same thing, however, since you cannot shroom through the piranhas, you have to go wide of them instead. Moving on to probably the biggest shortcut in the game, the triple shroom cut on Heart of China, which saves around 9 seconds. First, you have to get onto the roof above, which is probably the hardest part of this shortcut as getting the air needed can be quite inconsistent. I like to align more towards the right side of the ramp on a very slight right to left angle. To get the maximum amount of air needed, you want to be in a wheelie, shroom right before the ramp, and trick as early as possible. Once you land on the ramp above, hold left to move towards the left side of the roof. Once on the roof, slow down if needed and drift to the right to be perpendicular with the center of the roof. Then shroom and trick while holding back left to make it onto the rooftop above. Upon landing, drift left towards the final ramp. In order to land on the box below, you want to align just to the right of the highest point of the ramp on a left to right angle. Once landing on the box, drive off of it to the track below. Then do a right drift, hit the boost panel and trick off the right side of the bridge while holding left in midair to clear the snow. Wow, that was a lot. Although this shortcut on HELLADO Mountain is very easy to do, it still saves a lot of time and is worth mentioning. For this shortcut, simply shroom and hop twice to clear the gaps, then wheelie down this slope. Keep in mind that the rock falls at around 2 minutes and 20 seconds, so you will not be able to take this shortcut lap 3. ICECREAM Sweetland has one of the most off-road of any custom track in CTGP, and it has 2 massive golden strats. The first one is done by hopping into the snow at the start of the lap and skipping these 2 turns. Then doing the large snow shortcut. The second golden strat is at the end of the lap and is done by drifting into the snow after this boost panel and proceeding to golden on the right side. There is a river here that you can cross by hopping over it. After hopping over the river, you can go inside this ramp, and if not lap 3, you can finish off by cutting these 2 turns at the start of the lap. Yet another golden strat is this one on ICEPEAK Mountain. This one is a lot harder to navigate through as there are a lot of invisible out of bounds areas. Start by drifting in the gap in between the house and the fence. Once you hit the snow, proceed to Golden and aim to the left of this tree to avoid the out of bounds. After passing this tree, move to the left and stay as close to the houses as possible. After passing these houses, drive to the left of this tree, then continue by going to the right of the bridge. Finish off by taking the shroom cut at the start of the lap. This shortcut on Fireland is actually one that I forgot to put in my original shortcut video, a really important shortcut that dictates the race. To do this shortcut, trick off the ramp, then align towards the left side. Before hitting the off-road, start a right drift and aim for where the brown and red roads meet. Before reaching the edge, release your mini turbo and wheelie. You should land on this bounce pad ahead. Before you hit the bounce pad, it is important that you cancel your wheelie and be in a nosedive. This ensures that you can take the turn without going into the off-road or falling off the track. Upon hitting the bounce pad, you want to start a right drift, then hold back right in midair to cross the gap. Then drift hard right once you land to complete the turn. This shroom cut on Jungle Cliff saves so much time and is really easy to do. But you can also do this shortcut with the green shell. You can do this by sniping the Goomba and taking the shroom that pops out of it to cut the grass. This Goomba makes it possible to take this shortcut every lap in first and takes the Koopa Cape Shroomba to a whole new level. This shortcut on Kinoko Cave is the only shortcut on the whole track, so it is really important to learn it to be able to catch up later in the race. The first thing you want to do is try to get low air off this mushroom pad. To do this, you want to trick off the first one and hold right. You should hit the edge of the mushroom pad and get lower air. This way you can have much more time to execute the shortcut. After landing, wheelie, then start a hard left drift. Drive off to the side and hold back left in midair. In order to get the height needed to cross the gap, you will need to hit the very edge of the mushroom pad. Otherwise, you will fall short. Right before hitting the mushroom pad, you want to use your mushroom and tilt back. Then, trick off the mushroom pad and continue to hold back to cross the gap. There is an item box at the start of the race. So if you happen to pull mushrooms from this item set, you can do a mini version of the shortcut by drifting left off the first mushroom pad, using your mushroom, and drifting left off the second mushroom pad to skip the turn and to get an early lead. You can also do this if you are not comfortable with a larger shortcut. Despite having numerous shroom shortcuts, Lava Lake also has a shroomless shortcut that utilizes this thwomp to skip the turn. The alignment leading up to this ramp does not really matter when taking this shortcut, though I personally like to align towards the center or a bit towards the left side of the road. Get an up trick off this ramp and start a hard left drift as you land. Then trick off the edge of the road and hold right to get enough air to reach the thwomp. Hold your drift in midair and drift left off the thwomp to the track below. As you can see from these examples, it does not matter where you align towards this ramp. As long as you do the proper TF inputs off this ramp, you will be able to make it onto the thwomp. Lost Fortress has a series of 3 strats that you can do shroomless. These strats are done consistently at a high level and are more or less a part of the regular route, so it is important to learn how to do them. First, trick off this ramp. Then drift right and do a wheelie off this part of the road to land on this ramp above the water. After landing on this ramp, hop to the right and wheelie off the right side of the boost ramp to land back onto the main road. Upon landing, start a slip drift to the right and aim for the top right corner of the ramp ahead. Trick off this ramp and hold up left to make it onto the rail. As you land on the rail, you can drift a bit to the right if needed to avoid falling off and proceed by doing a wheelie up the straight. Before the end of the long boost panel, hop to the right and wheelie off the rail to land on the ramp ahead, then continue to wheelie off this ramp to the track below. Once you land, drive towards the final ramp and aim for the left side of it. Do a delayed drift trick to the left off this ramp to land on the rail and skip the off-road. Finally, once on the rail, hold right to fall back down. Lunar Spaceway has a single file shroomless shortcut that highly benefits anyone in the front and is one of the main reasons why people can break away so easily on this course. For this shortcut, align towards the right side of the boost panel. You want to hop onto this boost panel and do an instant soft drift to make it in between the 2 walls. As you approach the boost panel ahead, release your mini turbo and hop to the right, then wheelie along the dirt. As your boost is about to run out, do a spin drift to clear the rest of the dirt and make it back onto the track. For this shortcut, it's best to aim more towards the right side of the dirt, as not only is getting the spin drift more consistent in this area, But if you go too far to the left, there is too much dirt to where you won't be able to clear all of it. New Moon Manor, Sneaky's last custom track to date, has a shroomless shortcut that uses an off-road ramp to skip the turn. After this right turn, release your mini turbo and hold left. I prefer not to wheelie coming up this ramp for consistency. For this ramp, you want to aim for the section that is sloped as shown here. Tricking off this part of the ramp will send you onto the off-road ramp ahead, where you can drift left if needed to correct your alignment and trick off of it to the track below. You can also trick off the hedge here for an extra boost. Here is another example without the hedge trick. Just a simple trick off this part of the ramp, and another trick off this ramp here. Despite being a very short course, Nightlife Party has multiple shortcuts and strats that are to be reviewed. The first shortcut takes place at the start of the lap and requires 1 mushroom. As you land from the first ramp, start a right drift. Once you get a mini turbo, release and aim for the top right corner of the ramp. Once aligned for the top right corner of the ramp, shroom and do a spin hop trick to land on the track above. Then trick out the end of the pizza to make it back on the main road. Another thing worth mentioning is that if you approach this shortcut at too tight of an angle, you will not get enough air. It's best to be almost head-on with this ramp as shown here. There is also a backup strat to this shortcut that you can do with a star or mega mushroom. For this method, do a drift trick to the right off this green ramp and trim to the right of the fence to clear the off-road. There is another shortcut towards the end of the course that can be done shroomless. For this shortcut, get a mini turbo onto this little ramp. Trick off the boost ramp and aim for the top right corner of the ramp ahead. You then want to get a spin hop trick to the right off this ramp. Now I know a lot of people who can do this shortcut but struggle to get the hop trick consistently and end up getting a normal trick instead. But while messing around, I actually found a way to make this consistent. By holding left on the joystick as you land, you will get the spin hop trick every single time. Here is another example without getting the first mini turbo before the ramp. Trick, hold left, then do a spin hop trick to the right. I don't know why holding left works, but it does, so there you go. Shadow Woods is a rather underplayed track in CTGP, though it has a very large 3-shroom shortcut. Before the first turn, you want to continue forwards and hop into the grass. Then, while in the grass, hop to the left to align for the left side of the large ramp ahead. Trick out this ramp and hold right to land in the dirt. Upon landing, drift left to stay close to the wall, then shroom twice to reach the next ramp. Trick off this ramp, and as your boost is about to end, use your third shroom and trick to reach the final dirt section. Finally, use your boost from the trick to make your way through the dirt and trick once more to make it back onto the main road. Six King Labyrinth has a lap 3 exclusive shortcut where you shoot through 3 cannons, skipping a large portion of the map. You have to go out of your way to get there though. Take the first left turn after the finish line and follow the path until you reach the section with the orange road. After this straight is where the shortcut is going to be performed. Firstly, it's best to hop before the edge so that your wheelie does not end in midair, which would cause you to fall short. As you land from your hop, use your shroom. Wheelie and tilt back in midair to make it to the other side. From there, it's a matter of going through all the cannons until you make it to the end portion of the lap. Sky Grove has a shroomless shortcut that is mandatory in high div play and can snag you some wins in low div play as well. Start by doing a wheelie off this ramp and land on the mushroom pad below. Do a drift trick to the left off this mushroom to get reduced air and to give you more space to charge a mini turbo. Once you land, start a right drift and do a mixed soft drift. This way you can get a mini turbo and release it before the river section. The proper alignment for the shortcut is just to the left of this plant. Once you reach the grass edge, delay trick. Then trick off the ramp to make it into the cave, where you can trick off the ramp ahead to make it onto the main road. The alignment for this shortcut is not super precise. However, if you go too far to the left, you will not get enough air, and if you go too far to the right, you will overshoot the ramp. If you happen to be misaligned, you can wheelie turn while on the river section to get the proper alignment. Also, if you struggle to get the mini turbo before the river section, it's no big deal, as doing so is not mandatory, and holding your drift longer can also protect you from wheelie bumps in a tight pack. Lastly, if you happen to be stuck in the grass, drive up to the ramp, charge a standstill mini turbo, and hop trick to make it into the cave. After completing this shortcut, you can combine it with another shortcut, this time with a mushroom by drifting into this cave. Align towards the right side of the ramp and do a drift trick to the right off of it. You want to land at the bottom right corner of the track as shown here. As you land, continue to drift right. There is this bump here that you want to get a bit of air off of. Right before going off this bump, you want to flick your joystick to the left. Then as you land, you want to do a right drift. This is the only way of making it inside the gap when not shrunken by the shock. Due to the path being very thin, you will most likely bump into the wall, but you can use your shroom boost to preserve your speed. Finally, do a drift trick to the right off the ramp to complete the shortcut. Slot Circuit has a shroomless cut that not only skips the turn, but lets you avoid the slow ramps. For this shortcut, hold a left drift, and release it near the edge to the right of the rail. Proceed by hopping to the right and doing a wheelie off the edge of the road to land back on the track below. It is important that you release your mini turbo just before the edge of the road, as if you release your mini turbo too early, you will not have enough speed to complete this shortcut. On mock bike, this shortcut is much easier. The longer mini turbo and lighter weight allows for the mini turbo to be released earlier and allows for a less precise alignment. SNES Bowser Castle 2 is a great running track as it only has one shortcut, which you can do shroomless. To do this, align towards the left side of the road and do a hard right drift aiming for the side of the ramp. Once you hit the ramp, hold left to get more air to cross the gap, then drift left as you land to make the turn. The shroom cut on Summer STARVILLE saves a good chunk of time, something everyone has to know how to do to succeed on this course. Start by driving on the left side. After hitting the boost panel, start a right drift, then trick off the ramp and hold back to fly over the ledge. Proceed by shrooming through the grass. Sunset Forest has multiple shroom cuts, but the largest and most difficult one is found right at the start of the lap. Start by doing a left drift. Then as you approach the ramp, cancel your drift and hold right, then wheelie off the ramp at around a 45-degree angle and hold back in midair. I also like to nosedive when approaching this tree to make sure I avoid hitting it. Once landing in the grass, use your mushroom. You can also soft drift this turn before the ramp by holding 45 degrees on your joystick to get a mini turbo. Though this is not mandatory and sets you at risk for getting your wheelie out too late and getting a trick off the ramp instead of a wheelie, which will send you off the track. Sunset Raceway, home to the largest single shroom grass cut in the game that skips a huge 180 turn. To do this with one mushroom, start wide and do a right drift. You want to drive off just above this indent in the road, then hold left while maintaining a drift. Then, when in midair, let go of your drift and hold back. Doing all of this will ensure that you go far enough into the grass to clear it with one mushroom. Once you land, use your mushroom and hop out of the grass if needed to avoid losing speed. Toad Raceway has what looks to be an unintended shortcut that makes this track even more of a dice roll than it already is. To do this shortcut, shroom as you reach the grass and align your bike for this bit of shade. Then, once you reach that bit of shade, hop to the left. You will be able to go over the wall and skip the turn. You can also do the shortcut the same way without hopping, but you will most likely land in the grass, requiring you to use another mushroom. Tropical Factory has this massive gap cut, which is probably the most difficult shortcut on this list. For this shortcut, start wide and do a wide right drift before the ramp ahead. Then, once you drift onto the ramp, transition into a soft drift. Once you approach the wall, use your mushroom, then trick and hold left right next to the wall. Once in midair, hold back on your joystick while maintaining a drift across the gap. Tropical Factory also has another large shortcut which can be done at the end of lap 1. For this shortcut, trick off the ramp on the right to land on the road above. Once on the road above, follow it to the left towards the wall ahead. You can also hop trick a few times to get extra boosts. Once you reach the end of the road, wheelie off the edge and shroom twice to clear the grass. Twin Peaks, home of the ghost cow and this large 2 mushroom shortcut. This one, however, is very simple. Start a right drift and use your mushroom before this tree. Drift in between the two walls, then use your second mushroom to clear the grass. However, at 2 minutes and 45 seconds, the ghost cow pops up and blocks the shortcut, which means you will be unable to take this on lap 3. Warpipe Island has this trimless cut where you trick off 2 pipes to skip the long left turn. After getting a mini turbo from the right turn prior, drift to the left towards the first large pipe. Trick off the edge of the road to land on the first pipe in a boost. Then, trick off the first pipe and hold back for maximum air. Complete the shortcut by tricking off the final pipe and holding right to land back on the track. Wetland Woods has a shroomless cut where you fly through the trees to skip the last turn. For this shortcut, you will need as much space as possible to charge your mini turbo, so it's best to drift left to be as wide as possible. You then want to chain a right drift and perform a mixed soft drift to charge a mini turbo. Once your mini turbo is charged, release and wheelie off the ledge to the right of this tree. If you are not comfortable with the shortcut, you can charge a mini turbo and wheelie off later as shown here, which saves less time but is much safer. Last but not least, we have White Garden, which has this shroomless cut. This shortcut is very important as it is at the very end of the lap, and failing it can be costly. For Flame Runner, you want to wheelie towards the top left corner of the boost panel. Then, after hitting the boost panel, you want to drift hard left to clear the grass. Usually on lap 2, this gooba becomes a problem as it blocks the best line for this shortcut. Now while you can perfectly time the hop to go inside the gooba, the safer play is to hop to the left after hitting the boost panel and wheelie. Then hop out of the grass to the right of the Goomba. Finally, due to the Mach Bike's tighter drift, you want to soft drift this turn instead of hard drifting to avoid hitting the wall. And there you have it. That is every important custom track shortcut in CTGP as of July 2020 that I missed from 3 months ago. Any shortcuts not on this list? Be sure to check out my original shortcut tutorial video as well as my custom track tutorials and you will find them there. This has definitely been my biggest video to date. A ton of work has been put into recording, scripting, and editing. So if you enjoyed or learned something from this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. It would mean a lot to me. But with that said, thank you guys for watching and I will see you all next time.